Hey guys, welcome back. So as you guys saw in my previous videos, I had bought a SAIGA Russian hunting rifle in .308, and I was going to do a conversion on it. And my intention was to make it something into a battle rifle. So this is the final result. This is my SAIGA 308, and let me disconnect you from the tripod here and let you move around so you can get a good look at it. I finished it up this weekend. I'm pretty happy with it so far. Turned out really nice. Connect it back in here, just a second. Alright. So I've been wanting a rifle in .308 for a long time, and I'd long ago decided I wanted it to be semi-automatic. And I had gone shopping for various rifles and had done some research, read some stuff on some forums, and done some comparisons. And I had initially counted between 3 rifles, and then ended up picking this one, which I hadn't considered at first until I started doing some work on it. Originally, I had looked at the M14, and I knew it was based on the Garand action, and I already had a Garand, and I liked the M14, I liked the history design, but really, the M14 is essentially an upgraded Garand, and while I like the Garand and all, the M14 has some features that are lacking. Standard doesn't come with a pistol grip, and it's really, to me, the M14 is basically an M1 Garand in .308 with a magazine. There's not really a big difference in it, and really for that much, for what they cost, a good one runs about $1,800. It kind of just killed the mood for me to look at an M1. So after that, my two choices were between the FN-FAL and the German-made H&K G3. And FN-FALs, that was initially what I was going to go with first between the two, and I started looking at comparing them, and the DS Arms FN-FAL and I believe the PTR G3 were going to be the two models I was looking at. Both rifles ran around $1,000. Both of them had their quirks. The FN didn't like dirt, dust, and mud. The G3 was known for a large amount of recoil. I still like the FN, and I like the G3, but really between the two I ended up looking at the FN. And I was prepared to go up to my gun store and have them order me a DS Arms 21-inch FN-FAL. But while I was up there, I was talking to him. He says, well, I don't have an FN in stock, and I could order it for you, but have you looked at a SAIGA rifle? And I knew SAIGAs came in .308, but I'd really completely forgotten about it. And we started talking, and the guy at this gun salesman was a retired United States Army sniper who had actually taken a shot through the neck in Afghanistan, and was working at the local gun store. So he was a really awesome guy, had a lot of gun knowledge, and we started talking, and I went home and did a little research and came back, and then I said, yeah, let me have that SAIGA. And really what had sold me on the SAIGA was it's an AK platform, so it's easy to use and it's super reliable. And because it's an AK platform, it's going to be able to handle the inexpensive steel-cased ammunition. So you can still put a lot of ammo with it downrange without having to buy brass case .308, which unfortunately has really gotten expensive lately. So that really got me in the market for it, and then once I started seeing what things people had done with them, I really started to like them. So that's just why I went with this. And then when I started comparing them against the other battle rifles, they had a lot of pros and not many cons against the other rifles. So ultimately, this is the rifle I went with. Now, when you first get these rifles, they come in basically a hunting platform from Russia. There's no pistol grip on them. This pistol grip is gone. The trigger guard is moved farther back in the rifle, and there's a hunting-style rifle stock back here. Most of the rest of the rifle is the same. That system will work. The previous owner of this used it as a hunting rifle. My guess for this area is deer. But it's uncomfortable compared to the current setup I have, and the standard trigger on those SAIGAs is horrible. The pins here are in the exact same place, but the trigger actually arches up and down. It comes back down here. The pull on it feels like you're pulling a piano across a gravel road. It's terrible. It's not crisp. It feels dead. It's probably one of the worst triggers I ever felt on a rifle. And I knew it was going to get converted anyway, so that was going to go. So I went online and ordered some parts and started on the conversion. You guys saw in a previous video where I had removed the trigger guard. Basically what you do is you cut this little panel that holds the trigger guard system off, move it forward, and you can either salvage the trigger guard, or there's a company, DZ Arms or something like that, I'll put it in the video at the bottom, that sells the trigger guards, tools to remove the trigger guards, the modified triggers, pistol grip modifications, a whole bunch of stuff just for these conversions. And if you're doing a 7.62x39, 5.45 or 2.23, the bullet guide, so it will take standard AK style magazines. So after all was said and done, I bought the rifle for right around $450, spent maybe another $100 doing the conversion, and now I've got a semi-automatic battle rifle with a pistol grip, and I'm quite happy and really excited to take this thing out. I haven't had a chance to go shoot it yet. I've talked to other people who've had one. It seems to be there are really good gun channels that have had them. Everybody rants and raves. They love their SAIGAs. So currently as this weapon stands, I'm going to disconnect you guys here so you can move around, show you what I've done. I had some AK parts left over from previous builds, so I'd used some of them. First of all, back here, as I removed, of course, the standard stock, and this is an Ultimac AK stock, really high quality polymer stock, and if you can, I don't know if you can see it, I can't see the camera angle, it's got the the hole in the back for the AK cleaning kit. Right back here is a standard AK pistol grip. I just had one laying around. I'm going to put on this Tapco saw grip. I just happened to misplace the bolt, so I have to go run up to the hardware store and get a bolt that will fit it. And I'll take this one back off. This one works okay, but I've got this one, I like it, and I'm going to put that back on there. Of course, I did the trigger guard conversion like you guys said. And the next bit I was going to go to was, I knew I wanted it to have optics. So the next bit I modified was a Texas Weapon System. Sorry for the shaky cam, guys. Texas Weapon System's dog leg rail system. A couple other reviewers had done videos about it, and they really liked it. It's a nice way to mount an optic right on top of the AK, so it won't affect the weapon's balance. Mounts solid, holds 0. So I went with that. I'll do a full review on it once I've tested it out, but so far I'm impressed. It was really easy to install and a really nice rail system. As you guys can see, I took the Leatherwood CMR scope off my M4 and I mounted it to this one, so I can't wait to try it out. Also, I got an email about the scope from Corbett Leatherwood. I was pleasantly surprised, and he actually sent me some additional information on it, and he was really friendly and really liked my other video, asked me some questions about it, and he was definitely a really nice guy. I was just, you know, it's just some guy on the internet. I was really happy he contacted with me. It made my day. So he's looking forward to some range reports for this rifle, so as soon as I get a day off and some time and my ammo comes in, I'll go shooting. Anyway, going off the subject here, down here is a 20-round magazine. I'll get into these magazines specifically. These are not Surefire and they're not Pro Mags. They're actually a different company. I'll tell you all about that later. Standard 4-end. I've kind of gone back and forth as to changing this off. I'd like to be able to put a bipod on it, but I really just want a bipod, so I may just take this out and get a little piece of Picatinny rail down here to mount like a hair-style bipod on it. Maybe not, maybe in the future. I still like having the sling swivel though. I'm going to get a sling for it. Haven't decided yet, but it'll be in the future. And then the standard AK, or the SAIGA front end. This gun is known to shoot a huge fireball. So in the future, when I've got a little more money, I'm probably going to have this pushed back farther up the barrel, or I have seen some people actually remove the front sight entirely and mount a different front sight up here on the gas block, which changes the look of the rifle quite a bit. I really like it. But either way, I'm going to have this pushed back and have this threaded and have a 308 flash hider installed at a future time. This thing is supposed to let off a heck of a fireball. So let me put you guys back up here before I drop my expensive camera. Once again, I apologize for the shaky cam, guys, but I don't want you to have just a static display the whole time. It's easier to see what I'm talking about. So really, to break down this rifle, I have fired it in its previous configuration. I have talked to a lot of people about it. I've had experience with other 308 rifles. So I got a little background on it, and I'll tell you guys about basically what I think about this rifle. As far as the firepower of the rifle goes, this thing fires the big old 308 cartridge, which is significantly bigger than the 5.56 or 7.62x39, which is the next most common two cartridges. Full battle rifle cartridge, definitely lethal out to 1,000 meters and beyond. Now in this rifle, probably in this configuration, it's really going to be effective between well, 0 and 600 meters. the limitation factor on this rifle is the barrel is only 16 inches. Now, they do make a 21-inch barrel version of this exact same rifle. However, from what I have done research on, what I've read and talked to a friend of mine who's got a 21-inch barrel, the 16 is actually better. It actually is more accurate because the 21-inch barrel has a bad problem with barrel flexing on it. So if you're looking for one of these for a designated marksman rifle or battle rifle, I've got it, you definitely want to go with the 16-inch barrel. Now, speaking of accuracy, there's another reviewer, and I'll see if I can get his permission and post his picture up. I don't think he would mind, but I'll ask him, who has one of these, just got a Krebs custom model of it, and he fired, I believe, a .75 MOA group with match ammo. That's really impressive for an AK action style rifle. As I fired it in hunting configuration, with match ammo, I shot about a 1 MOA, maybe a 2 or 3 MOA with surplus ammo. So it's actually more accurate than the Cold War era battle rifles that I was actually going to buy, and it shoots junky to steel cased ammunition. So it's definitely a big plus. It was also one of the things the salesman had mentioned to me about this rifle. Comparing it to, as I said, other battle rifles, it's more accurate than they are with a shorter barrel. The only other weapon system I would put up against, as far as accuracy, that it's superior to this rifle, is probably going to be the AR-10. If you guys have seen it, it's basically an AR-15 that fires a .308. It's popular, but it's extremely expensive. Usually you don't even get into looking at one of those for less than $2,000. So here you go, a gun that's a third the price that shoots almost as good. And we're talking entry-level AR-10s usually shoot about 1 to 2 MOA. And here's a SAIGA rifle shooting the same for a third the price, even with everything else equipped on it as is. Now, I told you, I talked to you about the magazine. As a rifle comes, it comes with these standard 8-round hunting magazines. I've seen some people with 5. I think 8's the current. Really, back in the day with these rifles, there were 2 choices for magazines as far as manufacturers go. They came in between 5 rounds and 25 rounds. And you could get Pro Mag, which were inexpensive and cheap in the definition, in both terms of cheap. They didn't cost a whole lot, and they weren't very high quality. They fed fairly well. But they tended to break. People really didn't like them. And there was another company, Surefire, who made these. I believe they've been bought out by someone else. And they made really nice, high-quality magazines, but they were expensive, up to $50 sometimes, depending on them. Now, these magazines here, this is a new company. I actually found in a couple of forums, and somebody told me to check them out. So I can get the focus. If you can read that, this is Unta, or Unti. I don't know how to pronounce it. UINTA. It's a US-made magazine, and it's basically their version of the Surefire magazines. Has an anti-tilt follower, robust design, and they actually have these on sale. I believe you can get 3 of them for right around $85. I'll put the picture up their site. But they claim to be just as good as the Surefire magazines. They also go up to 25 rounders. Being kind of a Cold War nostalgist, I went for the 20 rounders. I think at .308, 20 rounds gives you the most amount of firepower for the least amount of weight. So that's what I went with. As I said, these are the 320 rounders. I am going to get a couple of the Surefire magazines, and we're going to compare the two and see if there's any dramatic improvement between the two of them. So far, I've been pretty happy with them, and they seem to load and unload real well, and we'll see that in the future. Now, as far as mobility goes with this weapon, this gun is based on an AK platform, and being based on the AK platform, it's going to be heavier than other rifles in its class. But it's not overly heavy. And one thing that you guys need to consider when you're firing these kind of rifles is, especially something like this that fires a big .308 cartridge, is the extra heft of the rifle is actually going to help you out. Laws of physics apply to guns, despite what some people think. So because of the gun's extra mass and weight, it's going to absorb a lot of recoil. Any of you guys who own a Glock pistol and then a standard all-steel pistol have fired it the same caliber will know that the Glock has a lot more felt recoil, maybe apart from the Gen 4s with a heavy recoil spring. But in generally speaking, a polymer pistol has more recoil than a steel pistol for the same amount of weight. Now, you don't have to be a wussy, but you're definitely going to feel the recoil. This is the same kind of thing. This rifle is fairly heavy, and it absorbs a lot of the felt recoil. So that's definitely a plus in its part. And it's not overly heavy, guys. It's only about 8 or 9 pounds as I have it configured here with the rail system and scope on it. So well, you should worry, maybe worry isn't too strong of a word. Take weight into consideration. And something above something in, let's say, assault rifle caliber and something in battle rifle caliber, don't worry too much about the weight. The extra weight to it, it will help you out. If you could tie 2 cinder blocks to this thing and run around with it, that's be what you want. It would help absorb the weight. It's basically what I'm saying. Now, speaking of the action, as far as reliability and durability goes, this is an AK platform already, which is already super reliable, and it's got beefed up parts. Let me move you in closer. You can see the extra beefed up. I think it's 1.7 millimeters, 1.6 millimeters stamped receiver. Heavier duty parts because of the bigger caliber cartridge. So you've got AK reliability and more durability from heavier duty parts. Real nice thick barrel, so you're not losing anything on this design. Really heavy duty, would definitely last you, and if you're familiar with AKs, you shouldn't have any problem using this rifle. It is going to be heavier than, say, a bolt gun 308, but we're comparing this as a battle rifle. I wouldn't say that's a fair comparison against like a Remington 700 or Savage 111 Mauser action bolt gun. Those are snipers rifles or target rifles. This is more of a battle rifle. Really, the best selling point on this weapon system is going to be the price. As I said, this as it is right around $500 for what I paid for it. And that, as far as I know, is about the cheapest 308 on the market. So, say you pick one up for right around $500, spend maybe another $100 on conversion parts, maybe a little bit more for tools if you need them. Then buy your pistol grip and stock, and you're still money ahead. As I said before I went shopping, I'm looking at the DS Arms 21-inch FNFAL for right around $1,100. And for this gun, as configured, obviously without the optic, but the FN wouldn't come with the optic either. The gun was, say, $450. I already had the stock, but let's say $60 for the stock, next to nothing for the pistol grip, $100 for the trigger guard, conversion parts, another $50 for the magazines and ammunition. I'm still money ahead of what I would have got that DS Arms rifle. So I was pretty pleasantly pleased with that. As far as optics mounts go, speak of which, you are somewhat limited on this rifle, but not really. Let me show you. It does have the standard AK mount, so you can mount red dots and scopes just like you can the other AK rifles. Now, of course, as I showed you before, I used the Texas dogleg system, and I've got my Leatherwood CMR mounted up here to it. I actually kept the same mount. It actually mounts about the same height. The only thing I have, I can't get a real good cheek weld. I can get a pretty good chin weld. I'll talk about that later and some plans I have for the future of this rifle. But you do have options for it, and there are different fore ends, and I think you can mount a red dot that far forward. But really, I think these two setups back here are about the best. There's a Texas dogleg, I think Parabellum Arms, and Krebs Custom make rails similar to this. Plus, as I already said, the AK rail system, which will fit just about anything. So, I don't want to make this go too long, guys. I'm going to wrap it up here. Basically, as soon as I get that bolt, I'm going to swap out that pistol grip with a beefier Tapco pistol grip. Right now, this stock works fine, but as I target shoot this rifle more and more, I'm probably going to go with the Magpul, I think it's PRS, Precision Rifle Stock. I'll put a picture of it so you know what I see, so you know what I'm talking about. I'm probably going to go with that stock and an adapter, obviously, to convert it for the AK. I've been wanting one of those stocks for a while, and I think it'll work really well with this rifle. So, other than that, maybe a bipod in the future, but as it is, I like the setup. I think it's about optimum. Good scope for the rifle, for its effective range. As far as modifying the rifle for this configuration, there's lots of videos online. That's how I went to do it. I'm not going to go in a lot of detail because there's people who are way better at this than me. This is the first one I've done. I'm probably going to do a 7.62x39 model in the future. But this one, they said, if you're going to start with, this is very easy. A lot of the other rifles have got 2 rivets back here you have to drill out for the trigger system. I don't want to get into details, but if you're worried about converting it, definitely go with the 308 because it's by far the easiest one of those SAIGA rifles to convert. It was a piece of cake. I didn't know what I was doing, really, and it took me an hour, and that's including putting in the trigger, drilling the holes out. It was a piece of cake. I was really surprised at how easy it was. So, wrapping it up for you guys, I would say the pros of this rifle. It's definitely the cheapest 308 semi-automatic rifle I've seen, even with the conversion, including, you know, assuming you, that's the word I'm looking for, that you do it yourself. You'll be money ahead of other ones, and even if you have somebody else do it, I think you'll still be money ahead. You'll have AK reliability and simple operation, firing cheap old steel surplus ammo, and it will do 2 or 3 MOA with that, and better with match. There's lots and lots of parts out there for it, and the parts are inexpensive. There's some companies that specialize in just the SAIGAs and in just the 308s out there. So don't worry about parts availability. There's a lot. It's extremely accurate for the money, and I would say, as far as accuracy goes, it's probably equivalent to an entry-level $800 AR-15. So if you'd like an AR-15 accuracy, but you want the AK reliability, but you want more punch, this is the way to go. There's not many cons to it. As far as I could say, it's fairly heavy, but I've managed to keep this one pretty light, so I'm pretty happy with the weight. But it will be a little heavier than compared to an AK or AR-15. As it comes from the factory, it has the worst trigger I have ever seen. Pick one up off the shelf and try it for you if you know what I'm talking about. The modified trigger on these, when they come from the factory, is in the same location, but the trigger actually goes up, back, and comes out here. It's got a horrible pull. It feels grainy. It really feels like you're dragging a piano across a gravel road with a rope. It's one of the worst triggers I've ever seen. Way worse than any of the Mosins I've ever fired. So that's got to go. If you get one of these and you want something serious other than occasionally, take down a deer, you want to do the conversion. Triggers go. There's lots of different triggers. Tapco, Red Star, and Arsenal triggers can be modified to work this gun. The only real con for it that might kind of lean you towards a different rifle is, as I stated before, the magazines. Those 3 companies are all I've seen so far. They're not going anywhere, and they're going to be around for a while. And you can order these if you want extra these 8-round mags. But because this is kind of a unique design, none of the other AKs that I know of take 308. So there aren't any surplus mags like in the 7.62 or 5.45 SAIGAs that you can modify the rifle to take those. You are kind of stuck with these rifles. They need the bullet guide, and even if they didn't, it wouldn't matter because this is the only mags I make in 308 for an AK. So G3 magazines are like $2 or $3 even today. FN magazines, $8 to $20 depending on the size. These magazines, 20 rounders, $25, $35 to $50 depending on where you get. We'll take that into consideration, but also take into consideration semi-automatic rifle with magazines and ammunition. You're looking at less than $1,000, and you're looking at $1,000 or over to get any of those 3 rifles I mentioned just to get the rifle, no ammo, no mags. So don't discount that out. You'll be ready to shoot with ammo to go for less than $1,000. So I think it's an excellent weapon system. If you're looking at a designated marksman type rifle, a battle rifle, or you just don't like the smaller caliber 5.56 or 7.62 by 39, you want to make sure when you hit something you really put them down, this is definitely one of the ways to go. So thanks a lot, guys, and I'll see you next time.